So you say you wind up in treatment in Mississippi. Was that your doing? Was that an intervention's doing? And what made you finally decide that you had to take that route? Because it seems like right here, this is where your life truly changes. It seems like.
Right. So
How did you wind up there?
so I had some very close friends of mine, and the girlfriend, my next girlfriend, who became my wife,
Okay.
put me in Copac, which is
What is that?
treatment center in Mississippi,
Okay.
and it's there that I got clean, and it was extremely hard. I mean, the detox was brutal, and it's a no-nonsense place. I'm not even sure it exists anymore.
How long were you there for?
A month.
A month. Okay. And so you get friends. Now, family had nothing to do with this? I mean, they may have jumped on board, but this was friends.
Only my
and a
sister
girlfriend?
knew. Only my sister
Okay.
knew. That was it.
Okay. So this proves a success.
Yes.
And you're now in another relationship with who eventually becomes your wife.
Right.
You're a month in Mississippi. Explain any of the nuances of this rehab. I mean,
So it was in the middle of nowhere. I think it's Bradenton, Mississippi. You had men over here. You had like a little creek that divided the men and women. You had the women over here. I had like 4 or 5 bunkmates. We had a group all day. We had to budget for our food. We had activities during the day, and we'd get medication, from a nurse if we needed it. And there was a bunch of shenanigans going on while I was there. The first night I was there in detox, one of the cabins burned down. That was because when you get a bunch of addicts together and they start partying in treatment, those kinds of things happen.
really?
I was because I was already in the field. I knew stuff was going down. Around me, but my position was this. My position was I'm going to do everything these people tell me to do, whether I agree with it or not. I was just done, just completely done. So, one of the staff members there, this guy, I think his name was Orville. Which is that name sort of sticks out to me. He would always look at me, and he would say to me, "The rabbit's got the gun. The rabbit's got the gun."
Gun or gum?
Gun.
Gun.
Gun, like a gun.
Okay.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean the rabbit's got the gun?" That's what he would always say to me.
Right.
And he was one of those guys that could look into your soul and see like sum up, who and what you are. What he meant that I'm not in control anymore. He meant that now the hunted is the hunter, and that you got to be careful and take care of yourself.
Right.
Because now you're not the powerful person you think you are under the delusion of drugs and alcohol. You're another person, and now the wife gets to say what to do and where to do it and how to do it. It's very humbling.
Right.
And he was teaching me humility, and that was it. That always stood out to me.
Did it work?
Yes, it did. I was ready. It definitely worked. So.
Right. Okay. And so at this point, you leave Mississippi, correct?
Yep.
When this is over and done with?
Yep.
You leave Mississippi, and I presume you go back to Florida?
Yep.
Okay. And so what's the next chapter in your life? You're clean now. Obviously, you're unemployed, I imagine.
So the next chapter, there's no rest for the weary.
Right.
I go back into my master's program at Barry University, and things are okay, and I'm completely sober, and I found out that my sister is dying of leukemia,
The sister that was closest to you that helped you get into the rehab?
No,
A different
this is
sister.
the other sister, right?
I see, okay.
So, I ended up being her bone marrow donor, and
Wow.
she lived for 3 years because of the bone marrow transplant.
Right.
And to this day, I'm very, very proud that I was able to give her 3 years that she wouldn't have had. And it also could have been a great reason for me to hop off the wagon,
Sure.
and I didn't. And it just made me stronger. She ended up passing away in 96, right around the time that I graduated, with my master's program. But it was, talk about a sobering experience.
Right.
And I got to do the eulogy,
Okay.
which was just amazing.
What were you going for the master's in at that point?
Mental health counseling and marriage and family therapy.
So this is now where you make a complete
This
change.
is it. Yeah.
What made you decide to do that? Was it your stint in rehab? Because obviously you were, your first situation was teaching and history. What was it? The rehab stint that was
No,
that
it
the
was-
catalyst for
It
changing?
was actually the seed was planted before that. It was when I was still at Syracuse and I was interning as a teacher in a high school. There was a young girl who was getting sexually and physically abused by her father, and I happened to find out about it because some of the students got very close to me. I was able to talk to them. They felt comfortable around me, and the only thing that I could do was report it. And
Right.
I remember my teacher, one of the I guess the mentor, if you will. She said, "That's all you're going to do, man, is report it. Your job is done now." And that was not okay with me.
Right.
That did not sit well with me. And of course I complied, but that did not sit well with me, and that sort of lingered with me.
Why? You wanted to have a more active approach?
Yeah,
in
I
stopping
think there
this?
was more to do. I felt like I had the ability to do more, and I was really handcuffed. And there's little moments like that throughout my life that have led me to this path. I had a very good friend in high school who tried to hang himself. These are the things that you sort of remember.
Right.
There's things in college where you have even though I'm a drunk and all that stuff, but then you have real problems like one of my buddies wants to jump off a building and I talked him down. There's those things like that.
Right.
Feeling like people can talk to me and open up to me and I felt like I had a gift too. I felt like I could be a very effective therapist and change people's lives for the better.
And so that's what steered you
Yeah.
into that program.
And then it was no looking back, and I loved it. I had the same feeling in graduate school that I did in that one class in high school, except this time it meant more because I knew this was the career that I wanted to go in, and I actually started tutoring my peers while I was in my graduate program. I got accommodations from the professors. They utilized me with the undergraduate classes. I'd found my calling, and just so you know, I went to school. I worked in a psychiatric hospital while I was in school.
Right.
And the reason I did that is I wanted to work and go to school at the same time because I wanted to learn my craft. And so back then, while I'm dating Suzanne, I'm literally in the library till 2 o'clock in the morning looking up what a multiple personality disorder is or what a borderline personality disorder is. I didn't have Google back then. Right? So I literally was up at 6. I'd work in the psych hospital first shift like 7 to 4. Go to graduate school till 10 o'clock at night. Study, and do the same thing over and over again, and hone my skills and my craft. And one of the things that one of my professors said to one of my supervisors at work, this really stood out to me. They said, "I don't think we did anything for Ben while he's been here for graduate school. I think the only thing that we did was brought out the gift that he already had, because
Right.
he's doing things that some of the professors can't do,
Right.
and he's seeing into people, and his insight is helping, is effectively helping people, and I knew that I knew that this was my calling."
How old were you during this time?
So this is now the mid-90s.
Okay.
This is now the mid-90s. I want to circle back to something because it's important.
Uh-huh.
Destination Hope was what I created in 2006 and opened the doors in 2007, and walked away from it in 2020, January of 2021. But the backstory to that is right around this time period. I graduate from graduate school.
Okay.
I'm working. I'm working in the field as a chemical dependency therapist. And if you remember, back in the mid-90s, the huge thing was the .com companies.
Right.
Everybody wanted .com. I mean, insanity.
Sure.
We had friends that became multiple millionaires because of it. So I had this idea